Having a look at the very first exercise of ClosedLab09, the task here is to take in an array of numbers as input and to output the very numbers that have been inputted. So let's have a look at the Java file that we've been given. Now we have the main method, the getNumDigits method, the getDigits method, and the displayDigits method. We'll get into the selection sort method later on, but for the first problem, these are the three methods that we've been given. Now the return type of the getNumDigits method is integer. The return type for getDigits is void. That means it does not return anything. Similarly for displayDigits, we do not have a return type, so therefore it's void. So breaking down the problem into specific pieces or specific jobs, we can say that the first job is to get in from the user the number of digits or the number that the user wants to input. The second job is to get those very numbers, and the third job is to display our digits. Now, since the return type of getNumDigits isn't, that's probably a hint to go ahead and do something like this. Now, the formal parameter or the input that the getNumDigits method takes is a scanner. This gives us another hint that since this is a scanner, the scanner must be used within this method to take the input from the user. So we'll go ahead and define a scanner here. Let's call it keyboard. So we've defined a scanner keyboard. Now let's pass it as an input to the getNumDigits method. Again, note that the scanner is called keyboard here, however, it's called inScanner here. So therefore, we'll refer to it by the name inScanner when we're working with the getNumDigits method. Since we have a prompt while trying to get the numbers from the user, we'll print that out first. So the prompt was, please enter the number of digits to be stored. Now the next step is obviously to take in the input from the user's keyboard. Since we have a scanner, we'll simply say this and we'll store it into a variable, say int num_digits. Now, since this method returns an integer type value and we've received a number of digits that the user wants to enter, we simply return this. Now, essentially what happens is, again, since the main method is the very first method that is called when a piece of code or a program in Java runs, we have int num is equal to getNumDigits. This method is called and whatever value is returned is assigned to the variable num, that is of type integer. So now we've received, or now we know that the number of digits the user wants to enter is int num. Now the next job would be to get the exact digits or the numbers from the user. And again, we have a method defined for that, which is getDigits. Now note that the formal parameters or the input that the method void getDigits wants is an array and a scanner. We've already defined a scanner in the main method, that's keyboard. Now our job is to define an array. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's call it numbers. Now, since now we know the size of the array because the size of the array is essentially the numbers the user wants. Our number here is num. Now we can go ahead and call the getDigits method with numbers and keyboard as the input. Again, note that numbers and keyboard here are integer and scanner type values, and here they're the same but they call different things. Here they call digits and in scanner. Now remember from class that when we pass an array reference to a method, the original copy is operated upon, and hence we don't need to return anything from the method and assign it to the numbers array. So we'll simply go ahead and work with the original array. Again, note that it's called digits here, though it's the original array numbers. So since the prompt here is enter integer followed by the index, this gives us a hint that we've got to use a while loop since there are multiple inputs. So we'll go ahead and use a for loop. You can use a while loop or any kind of loop that you want. I is my counter variable here. Another thing to note here is that though we don't have the number of digits being passed as an integer, that's int num from the main method, we can get the number of digits by looking at the dot length property of an array. That's digits dot length, because essentially the number of digits is the input that you need to take from the user, and that's the length of the array, right? And our final condition is I++ because we want to increment the counter by 1 every time our user inputs a piece of data. Now looking at our prompt, it is enter integer followed by the index number. So that's space, and then I, because I is a counter variable. Okay, there's no space here. And now since we want to take in an input from the user's keyboard, we simply go ahead and write digits of I is equal to in scanner dot next int. Again, digits of I because we're storing this value in the ith position or the ith element of the array digits. So now this piece of code is complete in terms of getting the digits from the user. Now, if we go back to the main method, the task that is left for us is this. So basically we've got to call another method, or again by calling I mean branching off to another piece of code. That's the display digits method. Again, note that the display digits method takes in as input an array of integers, and since the return value is void, we get a hint that we've got to display the integers in our array from this method itself, and we've got to pass in the array numbers here itself. Now again, since this is an array and we need to loop through each element to print it out, we have a similar structure here. I'm using a for loop again. Since I don't need to take an input here, I simply go ahead to the prompt, and since we've just got to print out the numbers with a space in between, I can delete this part. And I can simply go ahead and say digits of I. Yep. And probably write in println the contents of your array. And now since we've got to display the number of digits, we can go ahead and use the length property again, the dot length property again. So this should do it for a piece of code. Let's try this out. Let's say we want to store 5 digits and 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So we have 5 digits in our array. Then the digits are 10, 20, 30, and 40, and 50. Now I see I have a colon in between my output, and that's because I have a colon here. If I remove this and put a space, that should make the output just as we have it in the problem statement. So let's enter 4 digits, 12, 13, 14, 17, 19. Yep, so we have 12, 14, 17, and 19. So this is how we go about the problem.